Hello, everyone. Welcome in this lecture series of software engineering. This is Dr. Bright Keswani, professor in computer science and engineering in Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur. In today's lecture, we will discuss about coding and its various standards. And there are some learning objectives and expected outcomes of this session. Uh, Although this course is not directly related to the coding, but it provides a clear-cut understanding about how to prepare documentation, which methodology to be used to develop solution of particular project problem. And through this lecture, you will also learn about the basics of programming and coding related contents, and you will understand that what are the coding standards, how to make quality software, and development of good program. As you know that it is an art, and so you should know how to make your software project readable and reliable. These are the most important characteristics, quality characteristics of a software. So these are the learning objectives and expected outcomes from this lecture, that you will be able, after the completion of this lecture, you will be able to understand that what are the coding conventions, and well aware about the good programming styles. And secondly, how to ensure the quality of the outcome, that is software. So these are the learning objectives and expected outcomes of this lecture. The contents of these are the contents of this lecture. First, we will discuss about the general introduction about coding. Then we will discuss about the coding standards. Various coding standards are there. Programming styles are there. uh, then system verification should be there. So we will discuss about the system verification. Then code inspection, code review and walkthrough, and coding tools. There are several tools available for coding, which will help, which will provide the help to a programmer. So we will discuss about the coding tools, and finally we will discuss about the documents generated from coding. So this is all about the coding we will discuss in this lecture. So let us start about the first part. What is coding? You can say that coding is the activity where a design is converted to runnable code. So in the software engineering, the coding activity is very much important, and it is basically the implementation of the idea. So you can, when you want to judge, you want to decide, when you want to look that what comes after the formulation of your idea, you can convert it into coding, and you can easily get the output from your algorithm. So depending on the details of the design specification, the coding activity may vary. So nowadays, as we are seeing that there is a little distinction between coding and module design. And in fact, as the module design is being done, the result is usually directly typed in the form of code, and then tested online. For that reason, coding sometimes may be thought of as part of the module design activity, and other issues may involve simply the structure of the code itself. So coding is a, we can say it is not a easy activity. You should possess, if you are a programmer, you should possess many qualification or many skills to make your program reliable, to make your program correct or as per the quality standards. And many companies have coding standards that all the programmers must follow. The purpose of a coding structure is to make it easier for programmer to read each other's code, and to make it easier to maintain the code. That is, it is important that the code should be written so so as it would be modified later if the need uh, the need be. So when the programmer writes the initial writes the initial code for a program, he or she has certain ideas on the overall structure of the program, and these ideas determine how modification should be done. And unfortunately, since the program is only one example of these ideas, it is usually not sufficient simply to read the program in order to understand these underlying ideas. Therefore, the program must be accomplished by some kind of documentation, whether in the form of comments, internal comments, or the manual to be provided to the user or the programmer. And in both cases, the purpose of the documentation is not to repeat what is already known from the program itself, but to serve as a complement to the program. So, in short, the documentation contains what the program does not contain. Okay, so you should, when you are making your software, you should be very cautious. You should be very carefully uh, make your program, and you should know the importance of documentation, and you have to provide the documentation, user documentation, documentation for you end user, and documentation for future use for the programmers also. Okay. uh, Now come to the coding standard. So there are as you know, that coding standards are a set of conventions that the programmer follows to standardize their computer code to come to some degree, and to make our overall program easier to read, which is a very important thing. Make your program easier to read, and this will make your program easier to read and understand when it comes time for grading. But it is also good programming practice, and it will also allow you to quickly understand what you did in your program when you or others looks as it in the future. And uh, in other words, we can say that coding conventions, as it is sometimes called, is about how you code so that the code is easily readable and understandable by the human. There are several coding conventions. So, first convention is commenting. Second is program uh, robustness. Third is input-output behavior. Then modules and modular programming structure is the coding convention. Program testing is the coding convention. Cohesive procedures, minimize coupling, and minimize data scope wherever possible. Let us discuss all these one by one. First is commenting. So, program should begin with a preface stating the programmer's name, date written, course and assignment number, a summary or description of functions, that is, what the program does, and a brief description on how it does it, and any known assumptions built into the program, and any special instructions on how to run it. These are the uh, uh, preface. You can, when you are starting your program, you should mention in the program. Secondly, all variables should have a brief comments explaining their purposes, and the looping structures variables like x or I need to be commented. Okay, when you are having some looping variables, when you are using some looping variables, you should comment it. Okay. The third commenting line should be comments within code should explain tricky or complicated codes. If there are some there is a complication in the within the code, you should mention that uh, complication. You should mention that uh, how to resolve that complication within the code as and make it as a comment. Okay, comment should be clearly organized and easily distinguishable from the actual code. So when you are making your code, your comments uh, as a non-executable lines, then you should make it uh, comment, uh, and the comment lines are non-executable lines. So you should uh, clearly organized. You should clearly separate these comment lines from the actual code. Okay, and comment should be comprehensible and useful. Don't use unnecessary lines. Don't make unnecessary lines within the code. Only add useful lines. Okay, only add useful lines as a comment, and lines which are easily understandable. Each procedure or function should have a brief comment explaining the purpose of the procedure or function, and the comments might also state the limitations of the procedure and functions using possible preconditions or post conditions. If there are some preconditions or post conditions, you should state the comment in the comment line, and what kind of functions you are using. uh, Elaborate the function, the uh, working of function in comment lines. Okay, then the second convention is program robustness. Do not check the quality among real numbers. Prevent the abnormal termination of a program due to input errors. Check for the validity of the data when appropriate. Okay, and programs should not be built around a specific data set. Programs, unless otherwise stated, should work correctly for any reason test data set. And do not use go to statements or minimize the use of go to statement, because it is not recommended to use the go to statement. Okay, the next is input output behavior. Input output behavior is very important. All input output should use a proper format. All real numbers output should be formatted in a decimal form unless scientific notification is appropriate. Remember this thing. And secondly, all inputs from the keyboard should be prepared by a prompt telling the user what format is expected. For example, uh, please input the date in MMDDYY format. Okay, so mention MMDDYY format there. Label all the output values also, and remember that the output of a very complicated and delicate programs is useless unless one knows how to interrupt the output. So how to interpret the output. So if the interpretation is depicted wrong about the output, then the labels of all outputs are having no value. Okay, so input output behavior is another convention which is very important. Then come to the next convention, that is modules and modular program structure. Modules coherence is important. Each module should correspond to one subtask in the overall algorithm to solve the problem, and there should be module independence also. Each module should be independent, means it should be self-contained, and it should perform its task successfully without needing to know the inner working of the calling module. So every module should be independent. Make them independent as as much as you can, and module coherence is also an important part. Then procedures or functions should be in general occupy at most 50 lines. So uh, you can make the procedures and functions in not more than 50 lines, uh, and use appropriate parameters rather than global variables, and avoid side effects also, and hide any information from the caller that it does not need. The default should be to hide information unless the caller actually needs it. Okay. Then comes to the program testing part. The program testing should allow the program specifications uh, del- uh, delineated to in the problem statement, and like testing should be sufficient to thoroughly check all parts of the program and make sure that the output of your program illustrates that it does in fact solve the problem. The next one is cohesive procedures. So each procedure should be designed to complete a single task, and if a procedure handles too many tasks, then its logic can be hard to comprehend. The bugs can easily occur. Okay, so cohesive procedures should be designed to complete a single task. Then minimize coupling, which is a very important part. Through minimize the coupling, minimize coupling, you can achieve, you can make the your software, uh, you can reduce this complexity from your software. Okay, so parameter passing is good programming practice, but too many parameters and the code again becomes difficult to manage. Procedures with many parameters are highly coupled. They have lots of links to other procedures, and where possible, try to minimize these links. Global variables should not be used instead. So, minimize coupling is the coding convention, and last one is minimize data scope wherever applicable. So, variables and arrays can be addressed by code in different parts of the program, and accessible anywhere is global. And this sounds ideal, but without care, strange side effects can occur, where code in other parts of a program mess about with the contents of a variable by mistake. Restricting the access range or scope of a variable or array can solve this problem. Okay, so there are some, and where possible, wherever possible, limit scope of as much as possible. Okay, so these are the coding conventions you can easily uh, by adopting them, you can easily follow the coding standards. Next segment, next important point is programming style. As I earlier said, that programming is a art. Every one of us developing programs on daily basis, but some are making programs, developing programs in a very effective manner. So what are the main features of programming style? So these are the some there are some good programming styles. So let us discuss it. Programming have their own style of writing programs, and good programming style makes the code easy to understand, not only for other people but also the programmer himself. What is the importance of programming style? Programming style is very much important for some reasons, like to simplify programming with software maintenance, means make your readability implies clarity and understandability. You can easily understand the software uh, which is maintainable, okay, which is readable. So to simplify software maintenance, to avoid problems, to achieve simplicity, and to achieve readability, these all are the importance of programming style. Readable programs are more understandable, and you can easily maintain such type of programs. You can if you are to avoid the problems or to avoid the errors or bugs, uh, you can adopt the good programming style, and good style can make mistakes clear. So you to avoid problems, you should adopt the good programming style. And to achieve simplicity means consistency is simplicity. So to achieve the simplicity, you should uh, adopt uh, a good programming style and general program. And to achieve uh, readability means readability by yourself and others, and now and a year from now you can achieve the readability through adoption of good programming style. So uh, a good programming style or enriched programming style is very much important for a programmer. Now let us discuss about general programming style. What is a general programming style, and what is the good programming style? We will discuss. We will differentiate it. Okay. So if you have to use global variables, use long descriptive names as per the general name programming style, and never guess about data structure size. Variable names should be uh, clear and simple. Okay, and expressions should be clear and simple in the general programming style. Independent indentation and formats. When we talk about indentation and formats, indent bodies of structure statements at least three spaces, and leave blank lines between logical related groups or of statements after the declaration and between functions. And clearly deadline subprograms means procedures, functions, and modules. So these are some indentation and format related general programming style. Make use of features of languages. That is, if the language has a usable built-in features, use it. And procedures and functions names should be clear. Local variables should be declared at the beginning of the function. Use purify to plug memory leak and detect memory access violations. These all are the general programming style. Good programming style suggests what? Apart from all these general styles, programming styles, a good programming styles add on something. What it is? It add on the naming convention, means variables, controls, and subroutine names. You should incorporate. You should give it in a and indented and properly spaced code. You should document the code. You should make the cohesive modules. You should minimize the coupling. You should minimize data scope where applicable. These all are a good programming style components. Okay, or issues. You can uh, give the stress on these issues, and you will get a good program or good software. You will develop a good software. Now come to the next point, that is good programming style aids. Good programming style aids are modifiability, transportability, readability, usability, and efficiency. So in the modifiability means what? Code must be easily understood and modified. Okay, and almost each code is modified during its lifetime. A code style will help people to easily modify others' codes. So good programming style is helpful in modification of not only in your case, it is also to modify in other codes also. Transportability means to increase the productivity and usability. A program should be easy to transport to different environments and computers. If the program is uh, easily transportable and working in a easily working in different environments and computers, then it is a good programming practice. A good style of programming is to isolate all machine dependent areas of code and label them as such. So input output is a typical area where machine or operating system dependencies surface. So readability is a important thing. Then sorry transportability is an important thing. Then we will talk about the readability means a good documentation is there, a use of uh, indentation, the use of blank spaces, the use of commas, and uh, sectioning, proper sectioning is there. If it is there, then it is readable. Okay, so separate blocks of self-contained code with spaces, comments, and blank lines. Okay, indent segments of code in loops or in conditional statements, and make good use of procedures and functions to modularize program. And if it has to be modified or transported, it must be able to be understood easily by the modifier or transporter. Okay, usability means what? The user should be presented with a consistent, easily understandable, and a friendly interface. Okay, so use error recovery techniques that help the user. Also make certain uh, that your uh, error messages are consistent and helpful. So make your code, make your software usable. It will display the error whenever error is occur in the program. So make certain that make sure that your prompts are consistent and contain all needed information for the user. Okay, and user interface management systems are becoming increasingly important in computing, especially with the advent of graphical workstations with windowing systems. So usability is the important good and good programming style aid. The last one is efficiency. A well thought, uh, uh, a well idea or a good idea, good program is nearly always an efficient program. So efficiency is not just speed, but takes several aspects into consideration. So optimize your code without reducing readability to zero. And this is efficiency with restrictions. Okay, so increase the efficiency, increase the modability or maintainability, increase the transportability, increase the readability, and increase the usability. So make them your software system efficient. Make them these all good programming style. It's make your um, software system as a quality system. Okay, let us discuss about the system verification. The purpose of verification is to verify that the product works according to the specifications produced in the feasibility study and the design phase. And there are essential two ways to accomplish this. First is testing the system, and second is proving the correctness of the system. First is testing of the system, and second is proving the correctness of the system. So the first method cannot assure the correctness of the system. However, if a problem is found, one can be certain that the system is not correct. Okay, testing of the system is not assurance of the correctness. It provides you, it assure you that the system is not correct. Okay. Second is proving the correctness of the system. The second method is able to answer the ensure the correctness of the system. Okay, so unfortunately, it requires a formal specification of what the system is supposed to do, and such a specification is likely to be as large and as error prone as the system itself, and the specification itself thus needed verification. So what are the tasks involved in verification? These are the tasks involved in the verification: program testing and review of design and code. These are the two major tasks involved in verification: program or module testing, and second is review of design and code. Okay, so let us discuss program testing and review of design and code. Code inspections. This is the general phenomena. The goal of code inspection is to identify and remove bugs before testing the code. So when we are talking about code inspection, uh, code inspection technique is well known since 1976 and is a silver bullet that can drastically improve the code while reducing delivered bugs. Code inspections are one of the most powerful tools for eliminating bugs. These are the steps to for the code inspection process. This is the code inspection process, and uh, the code inspection are a, you can say it is a process consisting of these steps like planning, overview, preparation, inspection meeting, rework, and follow up. So let us discuss all steps one by one. Planning means when the code complies, uh, uh, when the code compiles clearly with no error or warning message, the author submits listing to the moderator who forms an inspection team. Then the moderator distributes listing to each team member as well as other related documents such as design requirements and documentation. And the moderator does the bulk of the planning process. An efficient moderator respects the time constraints of his colleagues and avoid interrupting them. So planning is important activity, and code inspection initiated the code inspection process initiated through some planning. Then the second step is overview. This optional step is a meeting for cases where the inspection team members are not familiar with the development project. The author provides enough background to team members to facilitate their understanding of the code. The third step of code inspection process is preparation. So inspectors individually examine the code and related materials, and they use a checklist to ensure they check all the potential problem areas, and each inspector makes up his or her copy of the code listing with suspected problem areas. So, overview is important. Overview is also important. Without overview, you cannot proceed for code inspection. Then, the inspection meeting. He will prepare after the preparation, after the overview, after the planning. Inspection meetings will be done. The entire team meets to review the code, The moderator runs the meeting tightly, and the only subject for discussion is the code under review. Okay, so after the inspection, uh, uh, where they can find the major or minor issues, and they recorded the major bugs or minor bugs. And in the rework process, in the rework step, the author makes all suggested corrections, and get a clean compile and send it back to the moderator. So, if rework is needed, as per the inspection meeting, decided in the inspection meeting, if there is some rework, if there is some minor or major bug or error is there, then uh, the team members or the author remove all the errors, and he produces all, uh, these corrections to the uh, moderator, and moderator checks it whether it is correct or not. And then the moderator checks the reworked code. If the moderator is satisfied, the inspection is formally complete, and the code may be tested. So follow up is there in the last phase, last step, as the last step of code inspection process. This is a checklist for code inspection. You should prepare a typical checklist for code inspection is given here. You should prepare a code inspection checklist before the inspection of the code. The code in the data declaration, you should check all variables defined or not, correct length is and type and storage classes assigned or not, and initialization consistent with storage classes or arrays and string initialized properly, or any variable with similar name is given or not. So data declaration, you should mention some when you are doing code inspection, you should uh, focus on all these topics. As far as far as the data reference section is concerned, you should check the subscript within the bounds, or record and structure attributes matched or not, off by one error in indexing or subscripting operations are doing or not, and correct attributes when uh, you are given or are associated with the data or not, and string limits exceeded or not. So uh, in data reference, you can check the data reference properly. Then the third point is computation. Third section is computation. You should check the mixed mode computation on non-arithmetic variables, computation on variables of different length, or intermediate result overflow or underflow. You should check all the things related to the computation and make a checklist whether all are working out properly or not. Then the comparison, in the comparison section, you have to uh, make a comparison between inconsistent variables, and you should make a comparison, a relationship, uh, that the relationship is correct or not, a boolean expressions correct or not, and operator uh, precedence understood or not. So you should make a comparison between the elements of the system, of the software, and make a code and mention it in the checklist. The answer you should mention in the checklist. The next segment is control flow. Control flow is related to something like multi-ways branches exceeded, or will each loop terminate, or will each program terminate. Okay, and any loop bypasses because of entry conditions, or off by one iterations errors is there or not. So you can check control related flow also, and mention in your checklist. The sixth point is input, related to the input output. So you should check the input and output related attributes, file attributes, open statement given or not, and format specification, matched input output statements or buffer. What is the buffer size? Whether it is matched with the record size or not, and end of file condition handled or not properly. So these types of issues addressed in the input output segment. The seventh segment is related to the interfaces. So number of input parameters matches argument list, and type of input parameters match the output variables. You should check about the global variable definitions consistency, and uh, you should check about the passing arguments, okay, in this section. And you should maintain all information. You should check all information from uh, the source. The last one is other checks. Other checks means missing functions. Regarding the missing functions, regarding the input check for validity or not, or any in unreferenced variable in cross-reference listing or not, are compound conditions specified properly or not. These are the other checks, and you should follow. Uh, you should check. You should compare these checks also. Now come to the benefits of code inspection. What are the benefits? So benefits indicates the code inspection is used to uh, ensure the quality of the code, and it such type of checklist, as you making such type of checklist, it will help you to make your uh, code uh, quality code. Okay, so this is these are the benefits of uh, code inspection. Now, code review and walkthrough. We will discuss about the code review and walkthrough. There are some important rules about the code review. Regular code reviews are a very useful tool in development, as people tend to overlook mistakes that they have implemented themselves. If you have made a software with your own, and you are an author of the software, then your view is always biased about the software. So you should, the code review provides you the proper review, proper feedback about the implementation of the idea. Code review also helps to spread expert knowledge throughout a development team. The suggestions and ideas which evolve during a review session often take the process big steps forward. And using various reviews, inspection, and code walkthroughs in a software development projects almost always has a positive effect on software quality, readability, and ease of understanding. So, code review or code walkthrough is a very important tool, you can say, and it provides you the um quality in your software. There are certain rules for code review, like rule number one: the duration of the code review should be of a reasonable duration. A balance should be maintained between the length of the review and the attention span of the reviewers. Secondly, participants must commit not only to attend the actual review but also to read the material and attend a follow-up meetings to hear the presentation's response to comment made at the initial code review. And meeting coordinates must not let the meeting designate degenerated into the problem solving session. Problems should be identified and assigned as action item to discuss in a follow up meetings after a solution has been devised. The last rule is the code review is designed to detect errors in the code or in the design, not to correct them. These are the rules. And now come to the benefits. There are several benefits. I elaborated earlier, that through the code review and walkthrough, you make the software reusable. You have to you should you will increase the software quality and readability, and you will make the software easy to understand to the user. There are certain limitations. You can call it as a disadvantage of code review. The only disadvantage is that they take time, not only of the person activity working on the project, but also the other people who are usually under deadline pressure themselves. Okay, so it will take huge time, and it will take a great it will take a long time. We can say it is a long activity. So it will this is the only limitation, or you can say disadvantage of code review. Now come to the coding tools. There are several tools like text editors, translators like compiler and interpreter you can use as a coding tool. Debugger is also there, which helps you in the coding, and parser generators are also helps you in a coding in a better way. So these are the coding tools. Now come to the next part, that is documents generated from coding. So what are the documents generated through the coding? There are several documents generated through the coding. First of First of all, you are making your code in a not directly to the text editor. You are designing your program in a documented form and for the future use. So, code document, a programmer's notebook, is uh, is the main considered as the main document in software industry, in the software project. So, uh, and many other programmers and other team uh, leaders and management also can see the progress, see the uh, formulation of idea or implementation of their idea in your code document. So code document is an important activity, is an important thing which you have to uh, use in your uh, which you have to document it in your uh, software development project. So this is all about coding activity, and this is the time for assessment. Assessment through multiple choice questions. The first question is coding is undertaken, and four options are: after design phase is complete, design document is reviewed, or while design document is in review, and A or B only. So the answer is A and B only. And coding is undertaken after design phase is complete and design document is reviewed. Okay. The second question is the objective of this phase, means coding phase, is to transform the design of the system into high level language. So the answer is C. The coding is the objective of coding phase is to transform the design of the system into high level language. The third question, the main advantage of adhering to coding standard is uh, uniform appearance to code and code understandability, code programming practice, good programming practices, and all of the above. So all of the above, because a good program coding standard possess all three uh, qualities, or all three characteristics. The fourth question, this activity for a module is undertaken after module successfully compiles. Code review, unit testing, integration testing, or all of the above. So code review is the activity for a module is undertaken after module successfully compiles. Okay, so you can mention the answer A. Then, which in the next question, which of the following are type of code review? What are the which are the following are type of code review? So, code inspection, code walkthrough, both. Both are the type of code review. Through both methods, you can review the code. The sixth question is, which of the following helps to detect algorithmic and logical error in code? So answer is code walkthrough. The seventh is, which of the following helps to detect common programming errors in code? So the answer is code inspection. So algorithmic uh, and logical error you can detect through code walkthrough, and you can find out the common programming error from in code through code inspection. Okay, which of the following are some classical programming errors? Use of initializing variables, or jumps into loops, or array indicates out of bound, and all of the above. These are all are the common errors. So all of the above is the answer. Right answer. Which one of the following activities is not recommended for software processes in software engineering? These all are the options, and mm, uh, B is the answer of this question. The last question: a software is an dash of the algorithm. So software is the practical implementation of the algorithm. The right answer is A. Okay, so this is all about this lecture. If you have any query, you can consult these reference books. uh, I hope this lecture provided you a clear cut understanding about the topic that we have chosen for today. Have a good day. Thank you.